Where do I even begin with the Apache trout? I guess I could just tell you that this was the most difficult native trout I've ever tried to catch. It's impossible for me to predict weather conditions when I plan these trips.
This is the Greer fire that is burning out of control at this hour, prompting evacuation.
At 7, we are on wildfire watch, continuing our coverage of the Greer fire burning in Apache County, now surging in size.
But a raging wildfire in the Apache trout's native range wasn't on my list of things to worry about. These fish are only native to a small section of the White Mountains in Arizona, more specifically the headwaters of the Black, White, and Little Colorado rivers. They recently made headlines in the conservation world when they were delisted from the endangered species list. But we found out quickly that that didn't mean they'd be easy to catch. Welcome back to the Western Native Trout Challenge. Alright guys, so today we're going after the Apache trout, which has been on my bucket list for a really long time. And we're finally here in Apache country, and unfortunately there's the Greer fire, which has burned like 20,000 some acres, most of which is in the Apache country. And we just had to call the Ranger Service District and just be like, hey, can we even fish these rivers? And they were basically like, or these creeks, and they're basically like, no, you actually can't. So, or you can only go in there if you're a local or business owner, which makes sense. So we're calling an audible, and we're going to a different section of creek that I didn't really plan on going to. It's a little bit further away, but it still has Apache trout. It's still in their native range, and according to the Forest Service Ranger, we can fish that area. So we're gonna get in there, and I mean, this place is just really cool. We learned that I was doing some research on the way up to this little mountaintop here, and apparently this mountain range, like this little sliver of mountain range, was created almost entirely by volcanic activity. So yeah, lots of lava rock and stuff around. But anyways, I'm gonna stop yapping, and we're gonna drive the rest of the way and see if we can't catch some Apache. So we really only had one place to fish, at least that we knew of at the time, due to the wildfire, which luckily had been mostly contained at that point. But that didn't change the fact that most of the national forest roads were closed and access was highly restricted, which made sense. So with that in mind, my buddy Micah and I decided to commit to this particular creek, deciding that if there was even one Apache trout in the creek, we'd find it. Alright guys, so we've made it to the creek that supposedly has Apache in it. We crossed a tributary and the water was like 80 degrees. I'm not joking. But that tributary doesn't come off of any like high elevation stuff. And this creek over here to our left does come off a very high elevation. So, and there's actually running water in this creek. So we're assuming there's Apache in here. What we're doing is just gonna walk for a couple minutes just to get up away from the access point, assuming that people do fish this to some degree, because there's only so many streams you can even fish for Apache legally. So yeah, that's our plan. Hopefully they're not gonna be too difficult to catch, and we will have a field day here this afternoon. All right guys, so as you can see, this creek is not very big. I have a grasshopper on, only because there's definitely grasshoppers here. Okay, perfect. Next hole. We'll see if we're gonna, I didn't spook anything in there anyways. Get off me. Get off me, boy. Really don't want to step in this because then I'll have my feet wet for no reason. Ooh, I love when the creek's so small you just hop over it. Okay, got it. See anything? You see one?
Yeah, he's pushed on his bank.
Like he's feeding?
He was, and he went on his bank.
To the left?
I spooked him. Yeah, he's under the undercut, right exactly where you just went.
I can't see anything.
You're literally on his face. I can't see him now because the whole bank's under.
Okay, but that's a good sign.
Yeah, he's probably
casting.
10 inches.
Big enough for me. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Gotta be more aware. Cool. Okay, we saw one though, that's fine.
Yep, that's all I wanted to see.
We know they're here. Got one.
Got it?
Something. See if it's a trout.
Have to study it?
It's a brook trout.
No way.
Yes, dude. That's not supposed to be here.
Kill it. On camera. Kill it.
I was like, it doesn't look like a cutthroat. It wasn't. Brook trout. It's not good. Not good, dude. Hopefully there's our cutthroat in here. We're gonna have a problem. Oh, sheesh. Brickies are a dime a dozen, baby. All right, guys, so the only thing that I'm catching are brook trout, which is not a good sign at all, because brook trout very often outcompete cutthroat in their native ranges. So we're just gonna walk up a little bit and just see if we can't, maybe the cutthroat have like some stronghold up here, or the Apache cutthroat or trout have some kind of stronghold up here that would help us. Because as of right now, we are not catching the right species, and that is not exciting. So we'll see. Yeah, you might need a different fly. Dude, this creek is tiny. I mean, I don't know that I can get my fly in the water here. Be cool if one ate though. I just want to make sure I exhaust this creek before we leave, so that like I'm not sitting there thinking, well, if only we had done this, we would have caught fish or whatever. Although I don't see hardly anything in this creek, which is not encouraging, I don't think. But at the same time, we know there's trout in here. Yeah. So what if it is Apache and we're just sucking it up? Got one. And it's a brook trout. At least we know. Yeah. So I fished this tiny little creek here. We kept seeing a couple trout, so I kept fishing in the creek, trying to find some fish and actually catch them. And I caught one, ends up it's a brook trout. So we're gonna go out, try a little bit longer section of the main stem of the creek, just in hopes that maybe there's an Apache somewhere, like a couple hanging on. But if not, we're gonna bail, and I don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe just try a bunch of different sections of this creek and see if we can't find some remaining stronghold of Apache somewhere.
There's nothing more depressing than fishing a creek that's supposed to have native trout in it, only to discover that the non-native species have seemingly taken over. And after fishing a large section of creek, our hopes were dwindling. But as I said at the time, we didn't really have a second option. So we kept grinding it out. And just when all hope was lost, I struck gold.
Guys, I have, yep, that's an Apache. They're in here, yes! Well guys, I wasn't recording, but I just cast it off the edge of this bank here and caught an Apache, which at first I thought was a brown trout. Turns out we have finally caught one of the rarest trout in the world, and unfortunately they're being taken over by brook trout, but they are still in existence in a few places. Oh, that's so cool, dude. All right guys, let's take a look at this Apache. This is such a cool looking, for a cutthroat it's kind of weird looking, like it's got like white tipped fins and stuff. Chill buddy, just for 1 second, I don't want to take you out of the water. But look at the colors on that fish. It almost looks like a brown trout. It's clearly not, but it's such a cool looking fish, man. That's so awesome. Right out of this pocket. Doesn't get any better than that. Thanks, buddy. Another one. Yep. Apache. Gosh, dude. I have to like look at it. It looks so much like brown trout to me. I know some of the native folks are gonna get mad at me, but that looks like a brown trout so closely. But yeah, like when I first see it, I almost question it. Second ever Apache. Actually got that one on film. Thanks, buddy. Sweet. Let's go!
Now I'd love to pretend that all of a sudden we started catching Apache trout in every pocket, but that just wasn't the case. In fact, the brook trout catches still far outnumbered the Apache trout. But at least we were finding some of these special little fish that we traveled so far to see.
I'm gonna try this hole. Yeah! Alright guys, so got another Apache. And we're kind of struggling to catch them. There's brook trout in this stream too for some reason, which isn't ideal. But finally, got another Apache. They just look so much like brown trout. It's kind of weird. I'll show them to you one more time and we'll get them released. Chill, buddy. We will go ahead and get this fish released and then probably keep fishing, see if we can't catch like another Apache or two. It's cool to catch them, but man, they're difficult. Yep. That's so funny. Dude, I just bow casted here. I was like, I'll just wait for Micah here. And I bow casted and he ate right off this log.
That's not a bad one either.
No. All right, guys, hilariously, I literally just caught the last Apache. Mike was like, let me get my rod real quick. He goes to grab the rod, bow cast it in here, caught another one. This one might actually be just a tad bit bigger, like generally the same size. Chill, buddy, relax. I know, dude, it's crazy up in here, isn't it? It's such an awesome fish. Cool. Yeah, dude. Why do they do that? Isn't that funny?
I'm just to see how long he does. Tickle, tickle. He loves me. He doesn't want to go. Come on. No, wrong way.
Oh, dude, that's all elk, dead elk. It's got antlers too, doesn't it? I was literally like, I looked over, I was like, wait, there's a big antler. All right, whatever. Let's look at this elk real quick. All right, guys, so we have caught a couple Apache now at this point. The first fish that I caught that I wasn't recording for was probably the biggest. And then Mike had caught one that was really nice, that we literally just saw swimming up the creek for no reason, and he cast it out and caught. But we actually feel pretty fortunate to even have caught Apache today, because we just ran into two fly fishermen that were walking out, and they were like, yeah, we've caught like 50, 60 fish, and all of them have been brook trout. So I don't know why we're catching Apache and they weren't, but it kind of puts into perspective how the day could have gone. It could have been a lot more frustrating than the way we had it. So anyways, we're gonna head out of here, hike out, and maybe fish some of the bigger holes that we think probably have some better fish in them on the way out, even though at least 2 other people I think have done that today alone. But we're gonna try it anyways, because you never know what's gonna happen. You just don't know. So yeah, let's start the hike out.
So I'd like to make a slight correction. For some reason I kept calling these fish cutthroat, but they're actually their own species entirely. Which I think is pretty cool, especially since it seems like most native trout out west are some sort of cutthroat variation, or if you're on the west coast, the rainbow trout variation. Either way, as I said in that outro, we're lucky to have caught any Apache trout considering we ran into people that had literally caught none. I truly don't know why that was the case, but I'd rather be lucky than good. Plus, we still had one more day to chase Apache trout, and what we found was nothing short of astounding. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Western Native Trout series.